Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. Lookout is in my lap again, so if you see a tail flash in front of my face, it's hers. Today is my February reading wrap-up. It's a little bit early. The month is not quite finished, but I read a good group of books this month, mostly fantasy, and I'm ready to talk about them. We have a lot of books that I really enjoyed this month. The first is A Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan, which is the sequel to A Justice of Kings, which was one of my favorite books last year. I did receive an e-arc for this one, and I was able to finish it right before the book came out. And then when the book came out, I immediately went out to the store to buy myself a hardcover copy. Spoilers, that's how much I enjoyed it. This is a great sequel. It takes the momentum and the setup of the first book, which now really does feel like a lot more setup, and it really starts to pay it off in this novel. The Justice of Kings is about Justice Von Vault, who is a emperor's justice, which means he's like a roving magistrate. He travels certain regions of the empire to make sure that the laws are being upheld. He has the authority to decide if someone has broken the laws, and he can render punishments up to execution. There is a lot of talk about law and morality within the story, but it's told from the perspective of a young woman, Helena, who is his clerk and travels with him and is learning the law from him and really admires him. But in this book, she starts to question him a little bit more as she is coming into her own, because the story gets quite a bit darker. They are now trying to get to the bottom of a lot of the things that they learned in the first book, and that means returning to the seat of the empire. Magic that was more hinted at, that we started dabbling in towards the end of the first book, really comes to the forefront of this book, and it's pretty dark and pretty interesting. The plot itself gets very intense, so I really enjoyed this installment. I thought it was very fast-paced. You know, the novel kept going and going and going, but yet you still have that time for that introspection where Helena as a character is really growing and questioning, and you are seeing these transformations in the companions that were with and in Justice Von Vault. I might have enjoyed it more than the first one, even though it's a little bit darker. And I think it's just because the pace was that much higher. So that was A Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. Next, A Change of Tone. I listened to the audiobook of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This is a contemporary fantasy in which there are magic and witches in the world, but they must keep themselves secret, and witches aren't really allowed to congregate together because it increases the chances that non-magical people will notice them, which would be very bad. The story follows Minka Moon, who is a witch in England, and she has never really felt rooted to one place. She's always felt lonely and isolated because of the way that these witches are raised. She has started a YouTube channel where she pretends to be a witch and isn't doing real magic, but it's just a way to sort of touch on and talk about this thing that's very important to her life that she can't really talk about with people that she really knows. And some people see her YouTube videos and decide to ask her as a tutor for 3 young girls who are actual witches, and the story begins from there. It is a rom-com. There is the grumpy sunshine trope, but there's a lot of found family. Reading the book felt like snuggling up in a warm blanket. So it was just a cozy, feel-good read that did still have emotional depth to it. And I would highly recommend it if you like contemporary fantasy. Next, I read Empire of Exiles. I actually did a reading vlog for this that I will link to so you can see my more in-depth thoughts. This is an epic fantasy, the first of a series that follows 4 main characters. However, they're all in the same location. It's almost like an isolated, closed-setting murder mystery, because these 4 characters, they're trying to get to the truth behind this very dramatic murder that happened, because things don't really add up. It starts becoming apparent that this is tied to a coup that happened in the past. The main characters are an archivist at this Imperial Archives where the main setting takes place, A young scribe who witnesses the murder and comes to the archivist for help. One of the mages that lives and works at the archives. And an investigator who is at first set to investigate the murder and then basically told to drop it because of some political implications. I really liked all 4 characters. I enjoyed following all of their perspectives. I thought that we were given a lot of world building, but woven into the plot, especially the backstory elements, weren't just info dumped on us. They were given to us in a very interesting manner, and I really liked the magic. That was wound in really well to the overall plot. Like, it's set at this really interesting Imperial archives, and there's a lot of cool stuff within it. I would recommend it. I enjoyed this one, and the sequel, I think, is coming out later this year. Next, I was approved for an e-arc of Fondelee's forthcoming Untethered Sky, which I didn't realize until I started it, that it is a novella. It was a very short read, but it packed a punch. It was really powerful emotionally, and it's quite different from the Jade City trilogy. This had a more fantastical, less urban setting to it. It's about a young woman whose family is killed by manticores when she's a child. She decides that she wants to become a manticore hunter. And the things that do that are these giant, beautiful birds called rocks that the emperor has a group of people that train these birds and how to hunt manticores. So she wants to become a rock flyer and work with her rock to hunt manticores. The novella is about her training and befriending this rock that she flies, and also her interactions with some of the other trainers. It spans a decent chunk of time, but it does it in a manner that's very well paced. If you like birds, kind of animal training, these intimate relationships with an animal, but also with other people, and if you like Fondelee, then you should really check out this novella because it is powerful, and I can't really say too much more about it without totally blowing up what the plot is. Then I read a young adult fantasy, This Vicious Grace, which has an interesting premise to it, but I really liked the writing and the emotion that the author brought to the story. It is about a young woman who, in this world where few people have magic, because of the lore and the cycle of the gods, every set number of years, the world is attacked by basically these demons. Only the current queen can control the magic to keep her people safe. But the queen herself doesn't have magic. She can only amplify the magic of others. And so her consort, whoever it is that she picks, she has to pick wisely based on whatever magical ability they have, to amplify that ability to protect her people. So she spends, the X number of years training with this person to face this upcoming battle. But the problem with the main character in this story is that every time she has tried to basically bond a consort, she kills them by touching them, which is definitely a problem. If she can't control her innate magical abilities to do this amplification, and if she keeps killing all of the people who can do the protective magic, then her people and their city are looking like they are not going to survive the next attack. So the story is following this woman as she's working through that. She's trying to control her power. She saves this man from the streets who ends up being able to help her work with her magic. Reading this, it was like eating candy. I got the book from the library and then immediately turned around and bought it because I knew that I'll probably want to reread it again, and I was really enjoying it that much. It really explores themes of loneliness. I really enjoyed the writing. It evoked a lot of emotion, and I liked the banter and the interactions between the main characters. So the queen character, she's not really called the queen, the group of mages who are basically, she has to pick from to support her, and then this thief character who enters the mix and kind of shakes things up a bit. It also has a sequel coming out later this year. And last, I haven't finished it yet. I think I'll finish it today, so I'll mention that I am mostly done reading Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project #1. It feels like it's a very simple story, and yet it's not. And I think that fans of Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere will really enjoy reading this one because of the glimpses you get into the Cosmere itself. And actually reading this has inspired me that, well, one, I really need to finish reading the fourth Stormlight Archive book because I've started it, I've just not finished it. But also I kind of want to reread Mistborn because it's been a really long time and I don't think I truly appreciated the magic and the Cosmere references when I read it the first time. I want to familiarize myself better with the Cosmere because I feel like I'm not fully understanding its depth. And since it's becoming clear that these books are really interconnected, I just want to be able to like fully understand the implications when something is mentioned. You know, I like when books interconnect like that. I have so many other series that I want to complete, but I might be thinking about rereading Mistborn sometime soon. So those are the books that I read in February. I think it was a strong reading month. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you read this month in February, or if you read any of the ones that I talked about and what you thought about them. And as always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks.